Hi there, everyone. My name is Jared Lenhart, and this is Apostles Corner, episode 114. And just so good to be back with you all today, as you all may know. And for those of you who don't know, our family's gone through a pretty rough patch this year, losing my father, Chuck Lenhart. And I guess now I would be your host on Apostles Corner because he was always the host before, and I was the co-host. And I just been in the studio here, just tweaking stuff, learning how to do all this stuff here. I had an idea before, but now I'm starting to get a grip on it a little more. But I just want to continue Apostles Corner and continue to use this as a platform to update you and update the world and those who support our ministry, Frontier Harvest Ministries. Um, about what we're doing in the world and how we're doing it and how you can get behind us and what we can do together to reach the nations. And as you all may have known, my dad, he was very, his heart and passion was to reach unreached people groups. That's why I grew up on the mission field. And my mom and dad also, they both have that heart, and they still do. My mom still does, and our family still does. And we're not just continuing Chuck's legacy, although God used him to create many things and create a great platform. We are taking on God's legacy for our lives and what he's doing through us. Because God's heart is that all would come to know him, all nations, all people groups. And it just so happens that unreached people groups and unengaged people groups are some of the most they've never heard of Christ in this world, and they're the ones that need to know about him so desperately. Not saying we don't need Jesus where we are, we need him everywhere. But God needs people that will send workers, that will go and will put resources towards reaching these types of people groups. If you know our channel, that's all we talk about is people groups and ethnic groups. And I mean, my family's half ethnic group. My wife is from the tribe of the Lee Sioux people. So my heart and my desire is to continue to use this platform, and we'll be having a lot of guests on the show as I continue to figure things out here as things go on. We're in a new studio now, and today I want to talk to you about how we're going to be moving forward in our ministry as a family and as a ministry at Frontier Harvest Ministries, because that's what it is. It's a family ministry. We're not some big operation with with a headquarters somewhere. This is the headquarters right here in the basement of my home. And we just continue to press on to the call that God has given to us in reaching these people groups. And I want to get into it here today with you. I want to be talking about the hidden initiative and the quest and work that we have going on in Southeast Asia, new work and old work. And I just want to go through it with all of you so you can have a good idea of what's going on right now, and what has gone on. So I'm just going to jump right into it here with the hidden initiative. And this is something that we've been doing since 2022, which is to engage into 41 of the most unengaged groups in this country that we're serving in. I don't want to mention it here, but for those of you know, you know. And the objective, what an unengaged group is, and we talk about it in a lot of our episodes before, but an unengaged group is basically a people group that has less than 0.01% to 0% Christians. So these are groups that are small pockets living in the mountains of the Himalayas, whether that be in East Asia or going through the 1040 window. Most of those groups live in that area. And in this specific country we're working in, there's 41 of these groups that are the most unengaged, and they're scattered across the whole country. So since 2022, we've been equipping teams, sending teams. The great thing about being a missionary and living overseas for over 30 years, which my parents did, is they equipped many teams on the ground, and there's many boots on the ground. So there's really no need to be in many of these places, because these men of the dirt, the guys that have been raised up that have their own disciples now. They once were disciples, but now they have disciples who have disciples. It's a whole generational thing that's been taking place. So the workers are there. So Jesus says that the workers are few. The harvest is so plentiful and the workers are few, which is right. The workers are so few, as we've seen through all the travels. You could look at our statistics here. 60,000 kilometers of travel in 3 years. No Christians. All the groups we've gone into, no Christians. No one knew about Jesus. There was no church. There was no government church. There was no underground church. Nothing like that. So the workers are there now. That's the great thing about this platform we have, is the workers are there. And we just need to continue to find the resources to send the workers so they can get to these places, because it's all about sending and getting into these homes of peace. But this specific, there's a whole list of 41 of them. We've been able to get into 34 of those people groups so far. And the objective is to get into the homes of people and make friends, make families of peace, and continue to steward that friendship and build that friendship. And eventually it becomes, the trust gets built, and people begin to believe in Jesus. Sometimes it's faster than others. It all depends how the Holy Spirit's working and how the workers assess the situation on the ground. There's a lot of things, there's a lot of aspects to this. But it takes about 2 to 3 years to develop a family of peace and to be able to start having a Bible study, have a prayer meeting, do whatever in that kind of, and have that trust where you could go back and forth from the big city to the village and have a relationship there, okay? So that's the Hidden Ethnic Initiative. And as you can see, we still have, 7 more tribes to go to. And by engaging is getting on the ground, getting your boots on the ground, traveling in there, finding out where that people group is specifically, and getting a phone number. And then the next part is engaging more by sending more teams. So the next thing I'm going to talk about here, and a very near and dear country to my heart, because my wife is from there. My oldest son was born there, and we lived there for over 5 years. We still do work there. And there's just so much happening in Burma today, and it's always been happening. Burma's a country that's been in civil war for the last 75 years or more, since World War II, basically. And there's just a revival going on there. I mean, like, people are hungry to want to know who Jesus is. People want to leave their animistic, their Buddhist ways. Not like other communist countries that we work in. It's a lot slower process to do work. And Burma, man, the people are just, they're open to the gospel. It's an open nation for that. As long as the civil war goes away, it would be even more open. And that's what we're praying for. But despite the civil war, there's pockets of places where there's still peace, and we can still serve and help the communities. And just this year alone, we've seen over like 40 baptisms in Mandalay, it's at the heart of Burma. And for those of you who don't know, Burma had a major earthquake this year. It was like almost an 8.0 earthquake that they estimate over 10,000 people died. And we had boots on the ground the second day the earthquake happened. The team was good. We were able to get resources over there and just start handing care packages out through our church network. And then we eventually used the church network and started these things called, we call them sinner dinners. You could check it out on our website. If you scan it there, if you go into our initiative page and go to our Mercy Ministry tab, there's all kinds of descriptions. And a sinner dinner is basically getting sinners into the church that's already established, and just give them the gospel, give them food, build that relationship, and just watch that grow. And as time goes by, we do it as like, we have like 100 people in our church, right? We'll give 100 people one food ticket, and we'll tell them to invite one friend, somebody that's never been to church, someone that's never been to a Bible study, and get their butt over to the sinner dinner. and we'll just have dances, have worship. Most of the time, they don't know what's going on. And then we'll get up and preach. We'll have locals get up and preach the gospel, have altar calls, and there's hungry ones that come up and give their lives to God, and then we filter those out, into churches at home. We call them life groups or whatnot, but over there it's more like house churches in homes, and filter them into homes. And we've been able to do that in Mandalay for the last 7 years now, and the work has just been growing and growing and growing. And we didn't start our mercy ministry much until we moved to Myanmar, because the poverty there is just so great. It's so great. And just being able to give somebody a fresh meal is a huge blessing. That opens a door. A way to a man's heart is sometimes through his stomach. So God gives us all these different strategies, and we can use these things as tools to draw people to Jesus and disciple them. That's the whole point of all this, is to disciple people so they can start baptizing. They can start sharing their testimony. I mean, this brother here in this tie-dye shirt, we found their family. We helped them out of the gutter, literally. They were living over a raw sewage with mosquitoes in a little bamboo hut. And at the time, my dad was like, you guys go head over there. I'm not going to walk over that plank because my butt will be in the water, So we all us skinny dudes walked over there, and some of our sisters, we went into his house, prayed for them. And I remember my dad told him, do you want to get out of this today? Do you want to move today? And he looked at my dad and said, yeah. And it was like, all right, boys, let's go find them a new house. And that's how that started. And look at him now. He's baptizing people. He's working alongside one of our main leaders there. And we're just seeing just a harvest coming in. The harvest is there, and just catching the harvest at the right time, getting to the right places at the right time where God is moving among the harvest fields. I mean, there's some places we go to, like this next place I'm going to be talking about. You go to a village, and even if you're a local, you get rejected because of the people groups that live in there. They don't want outsiders. They don't want tourists. They want you out of their village. They don't want you snooping around, and because they don't want to be around society. And we call this the Quest. And this is an initiative me and my dad started in the beginning of this year. And praise God, we were able to get a whole year's funding for that. And our faithful supporters and contributors, we just thank you so much. You're the ones that are keeping this going. We work it together. And the Quest is the objective to send workers every month to 72 different unreached people groups in East Asia and establish homes of peace. So it's different from the hidden initiative, because this group, this 72, is a whole different, it includes unreached and unengaged groups within one province of this country that we're working in. There's over 250 people groups within one province. Can you believe that? It would be like a state. It would be like, 300 people groups all live in Pennsylvania that all came from here and originated from here. That's how old these Himalayan mountains are. And so we've been able to go to 65 of these groups so far. And here's some of the stats the teams have traveled. We're able to send a team every single month for like 2 weeks at a time each month. They're going to some of the most remote places. It takes days to get there before they even start praying on the ground. They're praying on the way, but these are some places in the world where maybe nobody has ever gone to pray. Nobody has ever gone there to break down the strongholds and take back what belongs to God and break down these demonic forces. And that's the point of prayer walking, is getting there on the ground and get your boots on the ground and start praying. And the Holy Spirit begins to lead. He begins to lead our groups, people, even us before, to people's homes. And the relationship just builds naturally. You can think about, how's this going to happen? What am I going to say when this comes up? Or what's going to happen when they do this? But you can't prepare for any of that, and you have to go in faith. That's where faith takes action. You got to go And if you don't go, you won't find out what's really going to happen. And if we wouldn't have sent workers this year on this quest, beginning of January to the end of this January, we still have one more month of sending. If we wouldn't have sent workers, we wouldn't know the outcome. And this is the outcome. We have 20 new homes of peace in 20 different people groups. So, and these are groups that are like literally, I spoke about it in my last episode. They're like 3,000 people, 5,000 with little to none to no Christians. Many unengaged. There's some unreached. Even the unreached ones, their percentage is less than 1% or a little bit over 1%, where the church still needs help. And the local church is there on the ground, and they need equipped. They need sent. But you can see here as the statistics get lower, the miles are so many. They talk to so many people, 978 people. And these are just like communication, conversations they had. They're meaningful conversations, interactions, 175. And as the list goes down, it gets lower and lower. 45 contacts exchanged, but down to 20 homes of peace. And a home of peace is where they invited our teams into their home. They had a meal. They ate together. Some of the homes of peace, they even were able to share the gospel, pray, talk about life, and talk about purpose. Because there's a lot of identity crisis going on and all that kind of stuff. And these people groups don't know who they are with these different cultures they're integrating in. There's just so many factors to it. And be praying for the quest, because next year we're continuing this quest and harder and stronger than ever before. And we're going to see more people groups reached all together, between the hidden initiative and the quest. What's that, like 114 people, 115 people groups? And these are new people groups. Some of them we've worked with before, but we don't have any foothold in there. If you add on all the people groups Frontier Harvest Ministries is working among, it's probably over 130 easy. And that's something that I've been doing, and it's been my job to go back and retrace our footsteps and not redo, but I redid the website. You could check that out. But just reassess everything, what needs to be done better. And I just thank God for his grace. Our family's been getting through this whole situation only by God's grace. And he is our identity. He's the one that gets us through. So lastly here, something that's a new project with us. We've had relationships for a long time there, but we just really haven't gotten our boots on the ground. We haven't really done much there, and that's in Vietnam. And Vietnam also is a country with over 100 and almost 120 people groups. I think over 69 of them, 65 of them or so are unreached. And there's a whole bunch of unengaged ones in there. That means that the church has a lot of work to do. This is all based off of the Great Commission, Matthew chapter 24, until all nations hear, then the end will come. So if we don't get boots on the ground in all nations, which would mean all people groups, a group that identifies, has their own language, has their own cultures, as small as they may be, they're still a people group. And we got to reach these groups. We got to send workers to them. Us reached nations like America, like the northern hemisphere, whatever you call this, even Brazil and places like that, like we are sending block nations now. And we are the ones that the job is on us to go and to send workers and to get there and to equip the church. So in Vietnam, we went this year, we took a team, and we're doing these leadership trainings that Frontier Harvest Ministry we call Harvest Festivals. And what a Harvest Fest is, you gather leaders and you pump them up for the Great Commission. You get them ready to go. You try to get everybody unified. You're not just like bringing whoever to this meeting. You're bringing people who want to reach people groups, and you want to form an apostolic team that you can send, and you want to get that. You want to get that in your spirit, and you want to start doing it. And that's what Harvest Fests are all about. And at the end of a Harvest Fest, there's always sendings. There's always going. And that's very important. From 2011 to 2019, we did Harvest Fest every year. I think it was almost 40 Harvest Fests in that span, training over 30,000 leaders in the network we work in, and over 150 churches planted in that time through sending. We could have had all these big meetings and had a great time eating together, communing with one another. But if there's no sending, if there's no initiatives behind that, then what are we doing, right? Get on YouTube and get not counseling, but get the word and get some preachings on YouTube. But if you want to do something, let's do a training and let's send workers. Let's start doing it now. Let's learn it and then do it and go. And then whatever happens along the way. You know, we could strategize and all that, but anyways, I'm starting to preach here. So it was a great time in Vietnam with our team. We connected with a great church in the Pittsburgh area, Generation House of Worship. Pastor Nick and Nikki Shabrinsky, shout out to you guys and their team. You know, they had Brother Matt on there and one of the elders in their church, his family. They're so great. And Brother Wesley, who is a native of Guatemala, but his wife is from the area here. So they're our mission family overseas working. And it was just so good to be around like-minded people traveling together. And we were able to equip some leaders there. And the objective in I'm getting my countries mixed up, in Vietnam, is to reach into some of these unengaged groups. Now, there's a group in Vietnam. I don't have their stuff up here, but they're called the Thai, the TAI. And there's the black Thai, the white Thai, the red Thai, and they're like less than 1% Christian. There's a very, very great need. In the other country we work in, they're called the Tu Lao people. Same people group, but they've migrated down into Vietnam. And that's something that you'll find. Many of these people groups migrated from the north down into Southeast Asia during the Cultural Revolution, through history, you know. But I'm not going to get into that. But that's a whole nother can of worms there. And then another thing we're doing is helping men of the dirt, helping families on the ground create chicken coop businesses. So we have a grant. Also, shout out to the Hosea Garcia Foundation, who've donated some monies to our ministry to help out with these chicken coops. So we are very excited to see how the Lord is going to be leading. They're already doing it over there with the chickens, with the pigs, with coffee, and with all kinds of other stuff. And of course, all the countries we're working in, it's sensitive and some certain things I can't talk into detail about, but I can talk about some stuff. So be praying for all of this, for the hidden initiative, for the quest, for Burma Harvest, for the work in Burma. We're praying about, right now we're scattered. It's like a house church network, about six house churches in the area, in the city we're working in. And we're just praying about making it all one location because we have the people now, and just busing people to church. So be praying about that, how the Lord could possibly open a piece of land for us to purchase, to build a church, and have people go into that. And then using the house churches as like prayer centers or cell group places where they can meet up during the week, you know, outside of that. Because it's really developed into it becoming like that. And then also be praying for Vietnam here. You know, for the people groups, you can get on all these websites, joshuaproject.net, asiaharvest.org. Even our website, you can look up some stuff. But I just want to thank everybody for standing behind us, for watching Apostles Corner, and just, I'm going to continue to use this as a platform, like I said in the beginning. And if you've made it this far in the video, just like and subscribe. And, you know, God bless you all. Have a great Christmas. Have a great holiday season with your family. And if you could just get online here, get on our website. You could scan the QR code, visit our website there, www.frontierharvest.com. And if you would like to give a donation, you could give today and scan the QR code on the right. God bless you all. Have a great Christmas.